You better be fast. People make decisions, at a moment's notice, and they lose interest in it very quickly. You could grow faster on a new platform like TikTok, but if you can figure out YouTube, you can figure out Instagram, that's where your decision makers are.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk-TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. Welcome back, everybody. Again, Dave Fanale here, Real Estate Skill Builder, Real Estate Talk-TGIF, episode 362. Today, we have Byron Lazine. And Byron, I'm going to read a little bit about you that we got together today. You're a leader of one team at William Raveis in Connecticut. You're a digital marketing expert, podcast host, industry speaker, Connecticut and Florida specialist. You know, today you're a game-changing leader in real estate, co-founder and team leader of the One Team, as I said. And you've got the Real Word podcast. You've got several other things going on, man. There's just so much stuff. And BAM Media, BAMx, which is really cool. And if you guys don't know what that is, we're going to talk a little bit more about it later. But Byron, welcome to the broadcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thank you.
Awesome. So I start every broadcast by asking the same question. And I probably asked it to you 2.5 years ago, as you were on episode 230 in November of 22. The question is, what does TGIF stand for?
I assume it's thank God it's Friday. Is that what
That's what most people do say, but if you take a look at the names here, it's thank God it's Fanale. I mean,
Fanale, there you go.
Let's make sure we got to
go
known.
Right. I should have known.
Anyway, man, again, thanks so much for being here.
It used to mean Full House was coming on for me when I was growing up. If you remember that.
Yes, TGIF. Yes, it was. Full House was one of the shows. I don't remember the other
Family
shows.
Matters.
Yep. It was fantastic. My girls, who I'm actually vacationing with now, would watch that all the time with me, which is, man, I tell you what, that's
popcorn. Before I knew Dr. Pepper was bad for you, a popcorn and Dr. Pepper and some good old.
That's a long time ago. That is, you know what? That's a great memory. That's a
good old American television.
Yeah, amazing, right? But you know what? Regular television, I don't know what that is anymore. But anyway, man, thanks so much for being here. Your journey is really important, because like I said, I don't believe anyone just like pops up and, do what you're doing. All of a sudden do it and be successful. I mean, look, like me, I'm sure I could be wrong. I've had ups and downs with everything. Talk to me about your journey and where you started, how you decided to do what you did. I mean, you got your team, you're a great company in Connecticut, Florida. Talk to me more about your journey, how you started, how you got where we are today.
It's funny. Yesterday afternoon, I was on a call with Realtor.com. It was about 60 to 75 of their executive and sales team. And I got asked a similar question about the journey. And I was asked, what's one thing that you would do differently? Like you could tell your younger self to do differently. And I'm like, dude, I got to learn everything the hard way. Unfortunately, that's been my story. So, when people, what would you change in the past? I don't know, because I've historically need to learn by going through it. Ages 19 to 21, this is 2004 to 2006. I bought 3 homes. I bought 1 home a year with really, during the great financial mortgage crisis, 04 to 06. If you were in the business, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to get rich. One thing I didn't do was get any information. I didn't get, people who had done this before to help me avoid landmines. And so I just went out there, used faulty loans, bought 3 houses. By December 31st, 2008, I was filing for bankruptcy. That's the day that I did it. And then when I got back into got into real estate from the sales side, I learned very quickly, or I had the scars from the first real estate experience to, hey, I got to get around people that know what they're doing. I got to reach out to true business operators, not pontificators, not somebody who says, do investments and you'll get rich. Like, how about actual operators of the business, getting information from them? And I still do that today. And so I've been on this never ending journey over the last 15 years. to keep getting around, those people who have done it, not community college professors, nothing against them,
Right.
but I'm not learning business from those folks.
Not at all.
I'm learning it from business operators, people
Right.
in the trenches. And so that's what I've done over the last 15 years to try to put myself in a position to, build my company, help our employees, help our agents, help members of BAM, so that they can help their clients.
Yeah, it's funny. I look at it the same way, and the things that I've done in different ways. And I had my own brokerage back then in those years, and those are really interesting years. And everything that I thought would happen as far as agent population, business, and everything else, we all thought we had like a meeting of the minds of brokers and stuff. We would sit and talk, and a lot of the stuff that we thought would happen never did happen because I guess we didn't think on the positive end. We didn't think about humanity and how everybody worked. And I say that because
everybody was wrong on agent population numbers because they thought they'd go down because of how hard the business is, but they forgot, all the brokers forgot to hold NAR accountable to standards, which they have none, because of their money-making machine. And so, listen, whether you disagree with that statement or not, really there's nothing to disagree with. They've kept the standard loose because they have a three-way tie-in, and that's just the nature of the beast. And that's why agent count hasn't gone down. Nobody's incentivized. NAR, local boards, brokerages, nobody's incentivized. So it's not going to go down when there's no incentive.
And what we're all talking about, guys, is in 2008, I thought we would lose at least 250,000 agents. Then as time went on and things didn't change that much, it fluctuated. Then we had COVID. I thought we would lose another 250,000 agents. And over the past couple of years, and this year with the settlement of the lawsuits and everything, I thought we would lose a whole bunch of agents. But you said it yourself on a podcast, and you went through the details. Go through some of those details for me now, because they're really interesting for other people to really truly understand. Of course, you hit the nail on the head with low barrier, right? Low barrier to entry. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, listen, I said this, I think at the end of last year, the beginning, like, if you expect NAR's numbers to fall off a cliff, it's not going to happen. National Association of Realtors numbers aren't going anywhere because you have these tie-in agreements where, if you can't get access to the MLS as a licensed real estate professional, your job becomes very difficult. Okay. I mean, some people can do it, but it's extremely difficult. And a lot of agents still across the country have to be able to, they got to be a part of the mothership NAR, probably their state and local board, to have access to the NAR. It's the three-way tie-in, to have access to the MLS rather. And so until that really goes away, it's not, you're not going to see it go away. I also spent some time just kind of looking and trying to understand NAR. I don't want to just be a one-way critic.
Right.
There's a lot of things that NAR has done that have benefited home ownership and buyer advocacy over the years. And so I really want to understand it. The more you understand, there are layers to this beast. And, it takes a while. If you're 100 pounds, you got an extra 100 pounds on your belly. It's going to take a while of good diet and good exercise to get that down to where it should be.
Right.
There's a lot of excess at NAR that will need to be chipped away at probably for years before anything happens there with the member count.
So, okay. So you talked about NAR, and it's, I'm just going to use the word legacy, right? And the reason I use the word legacy is that it's always been there. Something that I'm sure that you shy away from too, is that because that's how they always did it, that's how it's always going to be done. I've seen this in boards of realtors. I've seen this in MLS boards because I've been on both, because they're very comfortable being in the comfortable state of not going anywhere. I say that in a kind of tongue in cheek as well. But are the new agencies, are the new types of brokerages, the EXPs, the Reals, all those, are they kind of an opponent or kind of the next step from the NAR legacy type of business? Or and you say the 100 pounds, can't lose it overnight. Is that something that the opponent is the wrong word, but you know what I'm getting at?
I mean, let's take EXP as an example. I don't believe, let me just clarify the question first.
Okay.
Meaning, do I think they're a proponent to NAR in the sense of what? That they're not carrying.
It said to make a change and to evolve in a less of a business as usual over the past 20 years position.
All right. I mean, certainly they're both. If you mentioned EXP and Real, so I'll just use them as the example that you brought up.
Okay.
They're both very much a recruiting, first brokerage, and they need to continue to grow numbers. So there's similarities. The model's different, but there's similarities with what every brokerage for decades has gone through, like an NAR of, we need to continue to add people. We need to have agent count growth moving up. It supports the revenue share model. I would say EXP as an example, if you look at the teams, the real estate teams on EXP, these are some of the top teams across the country. These are really high performers. And so they have a standard of excellence throughout the company in terms of production. Okay. I mean, you've seen a lot of really the great operators in teams. We just had Veronica Figueroa on the BAM Fest. And, that's an example of one of them. You got a number of them, Kyle Whistle and Dan Beer, all of these teams that are scooping up market share. So to me, and I can go through some of the track record of what Real's done. They're raising the bar on a lot of, whether it's, building brand. I would say, Real with Sharon's leadership has done something that is so unprecedented in a 2-year span.
Absolutely agree.
EXP with how they've actually taken teams to a whole new level of production, and what Leo's done as a leader over the last couple of years. I think both of those companies have actually raised the bar on what traditional brokerages do. Now, then there's also, places of commonality with maybe even NAR, even though NAR is not a great leader in this space. Zillow comes out with their new listing standard, all listings available. And if you're going to do an exclusive, it's not going to end up on our site. And EXP, backs that. That is quietly an NAR stance. They invented CCP back in 2019.
That's correct.
But NAR is not a leader on that stance. They have no backbone. They're afraid of getting litigated. They don't speak to their member. They're not front facing. So they're letting Zillow be the leader. And smartly for Leo, CEO of EXP, he's like, what? I'm just not going to let Zillow get all the, he's out in front of this. He's taking a position. I've got nothing against Compass taking their position. What they're doing is not illegal. I don't agree that it's the best thing for sellers necessarily.
Right.
But I think that's what NAR would want EXP to do. Unfortunately, Zillow's going to get a bulk of the credit, and it's not going to be NAR because of their lack of leadership.
So I want to go back to one thing you just said, was you talked about the base of EXP and Real being recruits first. But okay, so just a couple of quick things. I look at EXP. Full transparency, I am an EXP agent.
Okay.
I am also with one of the top 3 teams in EXP Align in the country, as you may have heard in the intro. I'm the growth manager for that team. And what I look at is revenue share at EXP. I know is just over 14% of the agents actually get revenue share. The others do not. So that's almost 86% that do not.
And that number is actually higher than the last time I heard it. It was down around 10%.
Right.
So I guess that number has grown, but 14%, you're right. 1.4 out of 10 agents get revenue share. The rest don't.
Right. So, and then you look at, we're just under 90,000 agents worldwide. And I'll use another company. I'm not going to use the name, of over 150,000 agents. And EXP does more units and volume.
The unit production's outstanding.
Right. Comparatively. So I'm going to challenge when you say that EXP is recruit first, and then you talk about Kyle and Dan and Veronica, and I'm going to throw a line in there as well as Parker Pemberton and all the other ones in EXP.
Of course.
If they're recruit first and they're setting this standard, that seems a little bit of an oxymoron.
Hold on, I said two different things.
Okay.
I said EXP has raised the bar on production in this industry and what they've done with teams. And I gave credit to some of those team leaders that you mentioned. While I also said EXP, the company, the whole design that Glenn built was recruit first. Period. End of story. That is inarguable. He built a model that if recruiting doesn't happen, now he was brilliant in the model that he built, right? Because he had no marketing costs around recruiting. He had no bonus cost on recruit. You know, CB right now is throwing more bonuses in some markets than you can imagine. I mean, they're taking non-producers and giving them $12,000 to join their local office. So what Glenn built when he built the model, which obviously existed in other industries, just wasn't to some degree. There's multiple levels. I'm not going to say it's a true MLM. I'm just saying there's multiple levels of revenue share. Yep, that is true. And the model he built reduced the risk of having to invest in the recruiting. But if the recruiting, or I know the word, that Real uses, I don't know if this is an EXP, is attraction. Yes. If attraction and recruiting and agents coming over, just to speak plain English, doesn't happen, the model doesn't work. And so the company, just like every company, okay, just like every team, you got to be always recruiting. This is not what I'm saying. These are not negative things that I'm saying. No. These are obvious things as part of a business. You've got to be adding to your business. So that's a similarity going back, decades old similarity when you ask for similarities and differences. And then I think one of the big differences that stands out, EXP, the level of production that's possible within some of these teams. And so does that clarify it, or do you still have? It makes sense. It actually works. I mean, when I look at, I look at the situation of the revenue share type brokerages and the ones we're talking about, EXP and Real, just as an example. And then there's LPT, and there's so many others coming up. And I look at the older style brokerages, like you just said, CB's been giving out bonuses for years like that to non-producing agents. Is that how they last, Byron? Is that how they survive? Will they survive just basically on numbers and not really production? Only if they're making the same investment on training and lead accountability, not just lead flow, but lead accountability. So you can go out and invest in, that's how you recruit, you bring in agents, but only if when they get there, the training, and it's not just your local manager who's been out of the business 10, 15 years doing training. I'm talking top flight level training, people who know what they're talking about. So only if you invest on that on the other side, because what will happen is in 5 years, you'll have a lot of these purchases, it's like free agency right now. Sometimes you look at an NFL team, it's like, wow, why do you think the New England Patriots had so much free agency money this past year? They stunk and they had to go out and buy players. And you look at the players they're getting, and it's like some of these players are just middling players, but they had to spend the money on somewhere. They need more players on the roster. And so if in 5 years, Patriots can draft well and they might end up good, maybe that young quarterback's good, whatever the case may be. Right. But, they got a new coach. That's what it's going to come down to. You can go buy these players if the new coach trains and 100%. Builds the infrastructure correctly. That's what it's going to come down to, these local CB offices. And so I don't, when you say, does the business model last? This is an argument I hear from EXP and Real and now LPT a lot, that the old school way of doing business is going to die. I disagree with that. It's going to come down to leadership and training. I don't think the old split model is dead, based on the fact that you just said it. only 14%, meaning 86% of the 90,000 plus EXP agents get zero revenue share, yet a large percentage of those agents did join EXP with the hope of scratching a rev share lotto ticket in the future. Not the only reason they joined EXP. And if they're on a team at EXP, you mentioned some of the team leaders. If they're on one of those teams, their business is they're making a ton of money. They have lead accountability. They have training built in on those teams. But there's a lot of agents that are, here's the thing. The agent, Pemberton, the other names we mentioned, when they're recruiting off of a business metric. Here's correct. Here's how you're going to come over and make a ton of money. And you're going to have training that is world-class within our team and our organization. You're going to have lead accountability and appointments that is world-class. That's how they're recruiting. Then there's a bunch of agents that are trying to attract in these models that are just pushing the rev share model.
Correct.
And that gets icky because the vast majority of agents are never going to sniff rev share, because who would listen to them in an attraction pitch if they've only sold 7 homes in their career?
Correct. So I want to also base a lot of what I say, in my opinions, are based on, I was a Century 21 broker owner for 21 years. And one of my biggest beefs was not having the support of what I see now, what I always wanted, working with agents that wanted to work, working with that agent that, you know, they came in and they wanted, it was like a business to each other. And there's a difference, I believe, in what I will call legacy brokers. Are they going to survive? Some
of them will, some of them won't.
Right. And I always thought they wouldn't, but recently you put up a poster too, based on it, and the onesies and twosie agents, which I always call it. You had a great take on that. Could you
remind me what it was? What was
you talked about, you know, the agents. We thought the agent count was going to go down in 2008, but now they're getting a better share because of how the market share has gone for the top teams, the top agents, et cetera. So you actually said that the part-time agent's not going to go away, and it just makes a lot of sense what you said. I mean, it was eye-opening for me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This was some data that had actually came out. So it was all backed by data on, I think it was the Real Word podcast that I was discussing this. You know, there's just no infrastructure incentive for the part-time agent to go away. And there is this influx in this industry of, like, with the low barrier to entry, for more and more people to keep coming in. So even while, you know, club 87% that fail by the 5th year gets washed out, there's always, you know, another group of agents that are coming in. And so, you know, they thought that, or the thinking was that you'd have some of these agents that are getting, you know, that are true full-time agents that are going to keep getting more of the market share. What ends up happening is the agents that, you know, some of these teams that we're talking about that actually invest in their business like a business and are investing in lead flow and are creating lead flow and lead magnets to their business goes up. That middle full-time agent is fighting over, you know, essentially less deals because deal count has gone down too. And the part-timers are kind of still getting their share. So it's really interesting. The other thing that I'll say to this is you're seeing agents that are comfortable generating lots of leads. You know, comp for them is going up, not down. And then you're seeing part-timers just kind of move down easier. They're meeting a consumer that wants less of a service. And so there's somewhat of a demand for that reduced service, and the part-time agent's comfortable just going the opposite way. And the middle is always a messy place to be in anything.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and so the middle agent, because of the lack of investment into consistent lead flow and building of the business, the attraction of building up a business, they're getting lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Can that new agent, that middle agent, increase their business without buying leads?
Like you can increase your business any day by joining a team.
Okay.
Okay.
What about on their own? Is it different?
Without buying leads, yes. Without investing in their business, no.
No.
So buying leads has become a dirty word, but if you're going to spend $100,000 a year building your brand, you're buying leads by building your brand. You can argue that that's going to be more valuable in a decade,
right?
Because you own 100% of it. But there's a lot of ways to build brand. It's, Gary Ashton style on a billboard in Nashville. It's, it's doing what, a lot of social media, a lot of stuff that we believe in with BAM, YouTube, you're building your brand on this show. Right. And so this show costs money. That it costs his time and it costs money. He's running it on StreamYard, and you've got some graphic components. You've got some editing components. This isn't free for you to build your brand and to talk to me. This is an investment for you every single week. You've been doing it for 362 weeks. And so everything costs money. Buying leads has become dirty. I call it investing in lead infrastructure, lead accountability, lead flow. So no, the middle agent who is in the business for a number of years, refuses to do anything but solo, and is just waiting for repeat and referral business, is going to have up and down years, flat, and probably over a progression of 10 years move down. There's a fight happening, in Wall Street for lead flow. And some of your repeat and referral business is going to go to the Rockets of the world. Rocket Redfin making their push for more lead flow, not less. Of course, we know Zillow. Of course, we know Realtor.com is a viable portal that gets a ton of lead traffic. By the way, Compass is trying to be another portal. Andy Florence didn't spend $1 billion on Homes.com to lose it. So it's going to continue to chip away at your repeat and referral business. You have to either decide you're going to individually invest, or instant now ready business. A team is a unit of business with process and structure. You could plug in and get business there. You got to do one of the two things.
So it's really important I want to repeat exactly what you just said. You said it's a business and process and structure, systems and processes, because that's what's going to make you A, be successful to start, and B, be consistently successful, and consistently, if you want to scale or whatever you want to call it, you just grow your business. Because one of my favorite sayings is consistency is undefeated, right?
Of course.
It's really cool. So all right, so let's shift over to markets, right? We talked a little bit about this in the beginning and what was going to happen as time went on, and what the market we're in. Like, look, man, you've been doing this a long time. You see the difference. You're a student of the game, so to speak. You got in this business investing before the shit hit the fan in 2008 and stuff. I've seen it from the 80s on, and I saw a lot of the late 80s, the 90s, et cetera. And then, what I think the last normal market we had was on September 10th, 2001. You know what happened the next day, and everything changed. I think our cycles all changed then too. But anyway, what do you see today? I mean, we've seen all those changes. We've seen all the things that we anticipated that didn't happen. People are talking about bankruptcies and foreclosures, which isn't really as big a deal as it was way back when. What do you see in the market today, and where we're going to go?
I mean, foreclosures are still near all-time lows. So we're not even we're seeing a slight tick up. We're not seeing
exactly.
Florida, for example, has got 24 million. If you go on Zillow right now and type in foreclosure, there's only 560 homes that pop. Everybody's worried about the Florida market right now, and there's high inventory. There's inventory on where I'm sitting that is higher than pre-pandemic levels. There's downward pressure on price, but there's been a lot of price growth over the last 5 years. You have 560 foreclosures on Zillow right now. There's nothing to worry about in that, in that sector. So how do I see the real estate market? Listen, we have a suppression of transactions still. We're floating around 4 million existing home sales. That's going to continue as we live through volatile times. And we've been living through it since April of 2022 when the interest rates skyrocketed. Right. We're going to continue to see this. You get a jobs report today that looks favorable, and the 10-year bumps up. Well, yesterday we had an unemployment reading for the week that was higher than expectations, and you had the 10-year tick down. You've just got no reason in times of uncertainty right now to expect that you're going to see a high transaction year in the near future. Everybody's worried about tariffs. Everybody's, triggered about one side of the aisle politically. People are worried about the economy. The economy hasn't been working for most Americans for almost 4 years.
That's right.
Okay. So, until some of that stuff feels more normal and consumers have confidence, you're not going to get back to normal levels of transactions. They don't have confidence right now. You see confidence scores moving down. This is why, hey, in March, NAR reports pending home sales are up 6%. But then the next day they come out and closings are down 6%. Just because pending home sales are going up month over month, doesn't mean it's going to relay to a closing. In the middle of going under contract and closing, a consumer might get spooked on the inspection, and the mainstream media headlines of uncertainty are going to continue to leak into their thought process. Am I buying too high? Should I be buying right now? Are we going to go into recession? What do these tariffs mean for me? And it just creates too much uncertainty, freezes them up. They don't make a decision. That's why we're trending towards really low levels of existing home sales, really low levels of mortgage, really the lowest levels of mortgage applications since 1995. We're up a little bit year over year, which is a good signal moving forward that if we can straight out some of this volatility, it'll come back. What I'm seeing for our industry, which is a bigger concern, is that agents' confidence is down. And agents are getting beat up. They're getting beat up from all angles. They're getting beat up from a slower real estate market, less transactions. They're getting beat up from rags like New York Times, who don't know what they're talking about, just continuing to destroy the agent name. I think it's a good thing because you're now seeing consumers in these New York Times podcast comments saying, you guys are so biased. People already don't believe New York Times. They saw this in politics. Like enough with your one side stuff. But agents are getting it from all angles, the lawsuits, the settlement, mainstream media doing what they did to the right in favor of the left, now to agents. That stuff's going to catch up to them. It caught up to them in the last election cycle. So agents are feeling it, and it's impacting their mindset, their confidence, and their momentum. And that's what I'm mostly concerned about, is helping agents flip the momentum, because you've got a lot of teams, a lot of agents right now that are beating the market, that are beating their 2021 numbers when the market was easy, and it's 2025 and it's hard, and they're beating their 2021 numbers. Why? Because they continue to invest in their business, what we were talking about before. Yeah. They continued to get better, not worse. They continued to grow. Their momentum was going the right direction. Their confidence never wavered because they had the right information to move forward in any market. So do you think, all right, let me ask you this question. We talked about mindset and flipping the mindset, and agents are getting beat up. What are the tactics or strategies that you've been using with your team to work? You got to train every day. You have to train every day. We train 8 times a week. Like, you got to train as if, listen, what's going to happen in the NFL? They just had the draft. From all those kids that just had their dream realized in the draft and got a spot in the 7 rounds on an NFL roster. Now it's like NFL has a very similar tenureship of survival like real estate. They sign 4-year contracts in the first round, and a lot of them don't make it past 4 years, 4 or 5 years, and they're out, and they're looking for what's next. I mean, it's the same thing in real estate. By your 5th year, 87% don't make it. What's the difference between the ones who make it and the ones that don't? They train way more than they actually play in the game. These NFL kids are going to be training all summer. They're going to have preseason. They're going to be practicing 6 days a week, whether it be in a meeting room or on the practice field, to play a 60-minute game on Sunday. They're training for hours and hours and hours before they go out on the field. And that's the same. That's going to be the agent that has confidence and momentum. Put me up against some of these people who have been talking about a home crash since 2020, who have been wrong every single year.
That's right.
Put me up in a debate against them. I'm going to be ready because I've been studying this for the last 5 years. I'll be very ready to have that conversation. Put me up against any local manager who considers their real estate job a 40-hour week job. And let's talk about why their agents aren't producing. I'm going to rip them to shreds in that conversation because I'm in it and it's not a 40-hour a week job for me. It's all day long. So the ones that train obsessively, bring that training over to the game field, know that conversations is conversions. You got to have more conversations, not less. Don't hide behind direct mail envelopes. Every piece of mail, every email, every social media post is designed to have a conversation. Every conversation is designed to have an appointment. It's a very simple 3-step strategy. Marketing so you can have a conversation so that you can get a face-to-face appointment. We're a physical business. The house is physical. The appointment becomes physical. And you got to increase conversations. You have the confidence to have more conversations and the ability to perform well in conversations and get recommended more when you just know your stuff. And that comes down to training and obsessing over it.
One of the things I like to do, thank you so much for that answer. That was excellent. And I want to go on top of that a little bit. One of the things that I have trouble with a lot of times is trying to help the agent that, been doing this for a while, has had some success or not much success. And I hear that, well, I know this already. What do I need to train on this all the time for? Can you mindset shift that person? Is there a switch? Is there a slap in the head that can move people? You know what I mean?
When you think you know everything in this business, it's the reason you do 17 deals a year, every single year, like clockwork. That's the reason. You think you know everything, so you're not growing and your transactions aren't growing. I want to do more business. I do 12 units a year. I've done it for the last 10 years straight. Well, you took a 60-hour course, got your license, and never evolved after your first 20 transactions. You don't show up for any you don't go outside of your local office and look for experts in your field who can navigate the landmines that exist when you go from 17 units to 47 in a year. You think an agent doing 47 units doesn't have more things blow up in their face in a 12-month cycle than the one doing 17?
Oh, yeah.
Of course they do.
Sure.
Are they not open to more litigation and problems and calls and complaints and issues and inspection reports and appraisals that go bad? Of course they are.
Right.
They have 3x the business. And so the 17, there's nothing wrong if that's what you want, 17 deals a year.
That's great for most
people. Don't complain about flatlining all of the time. Don't complain about your business not growing if you're not willing to grow. Your business will grow when you grow.
Exactly. So, hey man, so I want to go through a couple of quick things and I want to talk about BAM and how that all works. But I got 3 things and quick answers if you can. I don't care if they're long or not, but I'm just saying there are 3 thoughts that I had that I wanted to ask you because I believe you're experts in all three situations here. And the first one is clear cooperation. Your thoughts?
I mean, clear cooperation was invented by NAR in 2019. This isn't it's not a God-given right for anybody. That being said, if we're talking about buyers having availability to all listings, that sounds like a pretty good idea. So the spirit of the rule, I think, had that in mind. I don't think anybody wants to go back to the 80s and 90s. No. Okay, I know Compass just came out with a physical book in their office. That was the big news yesterday. I think it's a major troll. I think Robert Revkin is going Elon Musk style meme trolling on the industry with this physical book, and just getting people to talk about it. Nothing is going back to the 80s and 90s. No, if it's a real thing, then they're undressing themselves not as a tech company, which they've said that they are. I've always said the ceiling is Sotheby's 2.0 anyways. I've disagreed with the tech thing. Brokerages are terrible at tech. Brokerages, all of them say they're great at tech. None of them can compete with the real tech players in this industry. Not the EXPs, not the Reels, and Reels got good back-end tech. I've seen it. And I'm sure EXP does too, but I'm just saying it's not even close to Silicon Valley level tech. And so, listen, I think clear cooperation, I'm not going to sit here and say to a Compass agent, you're breaking the law. You're not breaking a law. I don't get offended by somebody doing a legal business model. Right. Do I think it helps sellers? No, of course not. I want to be exposed to the entirety of the market. Would my wish and dream be that every single buyer can have access to every single listing? Of course, but until the DOJ says that that's a law, Compass isn't doing anything. And I'm not going to get triggered by their business model. I'm going to have a way to communicate if I'm not a Compass agent, just like Compass agents have a way to communicate. Their 3-phase marketing plan is brilliant because their agents can repeat steps of 3.
Right.
Consumers can understand steps of 3, small, medium, large. It's a really good marketing play. It's really good for them. I agree. Their agents know how to handle that script. Is it good for consumer? Well, we just saw a LinkedIn post. I covered it this week. They almost cost the seller in San Francisco. I'm assuming she's smart to have a San Francisco condo, $100,000. Yep. And the buyer's the one that got the cold feet because the buyer's saying, this wasn't tested to the market. Am I overpaying? Well, no, you weren't overpaying. When it went to the open market, the seller got $100,000 more. So the true test to anything is always open market. There's, to say that you can test what they're doing in exclusive in step 2 of their 3-phase with coming soon. You can test this. Now, everybody who's against Compass, listen up. I hear everybody and your CEO. I love Leo. I love what he's doing. Obviously is a big, we got to keep CCP. Well, everybody that keeps saying we got to keep CCP, you should be the ones holding NAR to the fire, not me. I don't have the power of a CEO level executive in this industry. None of them are holding NAR to the standard in which I think they should be held. The CEO has done one podcast that was softball questions, gets on a couple stages for 20 minutes and says, I can't answer that. No, everybody who is saying CCP should exist should be doing the work that I'm talking about every single week with NAR, because NAR invented CCP. Now you've got Revkin dragging NAR through the mud. He's not afraid of anybody's lawsuits right now. He's not afraid of standing up for it. Now, everybody who's pro CCP, I don't know the conversations happening in the back end, but I don't see any leadership from NAR. So whatever conversations are happening in the background, they're not working.
All right. So thank you for that answer. That was really great. So the next subject, really quickly, if you want, AI tools. What will they change? Will they change anything? And what's the importance of them in our business?
Yeah, I mean, it's so obvious that it over the next 5+ years, and it's happening quickly. There's going to be massive change. I mean, AI is working for a lot of teams, probably some of the teams that right now. You have House Whisper. I think it's housewhisper.ai would be the actual domain where, what's been the big struggle for teams over the last decade? Well, agents don't want to fill out a CRM. Well, House Whisper does it for them now. Okay. Like all the information of what happened on the appointment, what happened on the phone call, it all gets documented now into the CRM. So guess what, agents, you don't have to do the manual documentation anymore. House Whisper AI can do that. That's a Spencer Raskoff backed company. I was fortunate to be one of the people that beta tested it. Now it's become a little bit more open for other teams to get into. So that's one thing that's, changing right now. And listen, what changed in our past? Well, over the last 10, 15 years, teams were able to get more market share than local brokerages. Why is that? They actually invested in the thing that matters, lead flow. They're creating conversations. They got very sophisticated with being able to track this stuff in a CRM. They got very sophisticated with running an inside sales department. And then now they're going to be the ones that are adopting some of this AI technology. And so, yeah, it's moving fast. It's obvious. It's happening. It's not just for writing listing descriptions. Even today, there's a lot of, there's a lot of different ways you can leverage AI, and it's just going to become, a lot of agents are like, because they remember how it's been for 10 or 20 years for them. They don't want to update an app on leads, or, they don't want to have 5 or 10 or 15 different apps to run their business, or digital platforms. Well, you're not living in today's world. This is where it's going. And there's going to be more latching on to these apps with AI agents and AI tools over the next 5 years than less. And the ones that are using it are going to be able to do more. I think, the big thing when I talk about that 17 agent to 47 transactions, this is going to help you be that agent if you get it and understand it and learn it. And so it's really important.
So lastly, I want to get into to BAMx and everything you got going on there, because it's such a great platform, such a great system. Social media channels. I mean, people talk about, well, I don't want to do this, or I want to do that, or I'll just be on Instagram, I'll be on Facebook, or I'll use TikTok or whatever. And as we get into the conversation and to finish up with BAMx, is there a better one than the others? I mean, is Facebook, is Instagram, what is it for? Is there one to use? Which one, or how many, or all of them?
I mean, you should use them all. Yeah. You should use them all. YouTube, if you can figure out YouTube, that's the game changer. And so, I'd encourage everyone to spend some time trying to grow on YouTube. Obviously, it's the last couple of years was you could grow faster on a new platform like TikTok, but if you can figure out YouTube, you can figure out Instagram. That's where your decision makers are. You can get really good with hyper local content on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, if you want to build a brand, these are things you've got to know. This is kind of saying obvious things, right?
It is. It is. Mm-hmm.
But like I talk about whether it's direct mail or being, having a great online brand, and I asked Alex Hormozy about this when we had him on BAMfest. It's like, I don't care what you do for marketing. If you don't have a system and an infrastructure built up that when somebody goes from your marketing, your social media message into lead, whether that's lead magnet on Instagram or otherwise, or direct mail, to respond within the first 60 seconds, it doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
So you better be fast. People make decisions, at a moment's notice, and they lose interest in it very quickly. Look at how people scroll on their phone. That's how their brain works today. Look at how people listen to songs on their phone. They're jump around. Okay. They're not going to wait for the end of the song. It's 3 minutes, but if it's not hitting for them, they're going to go to the next one. The same, this has been growing in our conscious for years, flipping through the remote on the television, flipping through TikTok. It's all the same stuff. It's just speeding up.
I laugh at speeding up and flipping through stations and stuff. I remember, look, man, I know I would have shown my age, but the radio in the car used to have 5 buttons, and you had to go back and forth to your presets. There used to be a thing called a channel selector on a TV where you had to turn it and get to the, for us in New York area, it was 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and maybe 13, right? So we had to turn it.
I remember my parents coming in like, what? Just land on a channel, just pick a channel, because they only had 3. I had, 20, 30, 40 channels or whatever, growing up. They only had 3. So they were used to just picking a channel. It's like, hey, I got options. And now it's been decades of that becoming muscle memory. It's on the phone. And so if somebody makes hits one of your CTAs, you got to meet it in the moment, because that's when they have interest. They may not have interest 15 minutes later. Okay. Right. Because if you don't pick up, they're just going to go find somebody else's CTA. And if they do pick up, I've already talked to one person on the phone. I don't want to talk to 2. Preference is to talk to none, but I'll talk to 1 and move on and never answer your call because you were just too late. You were too slow.
Hey man, you know what? I want to thank you so much for your time today. And I want to talk a little bit about BAMx. I mean, if you guys have not, if anyone watches this broadcast either live or later on, and you don't know about BAMx, you need to. It is the I think the best current platform out there. Is there anything to compare it to, Byron, at all?
I mean, certainly not for the price point. And we moved it over to school. So talking about Alex Hormozi, this is somebody that in terms of sales and building businesses, what he's done with acquisition.com. It's the only company he's publicly backed, school.com. It's the best platform for community and training all in one place. Facebook groups are dead. Think about all the spam and nonsense you got to navigate through Facebook. So when you're in a school group, you've got no fake users, you've got no spam. So you can actually really connect, collaborate, send referrals, all that kind of stuff. But our classroom, we're dropping new weekly content every single week. Okay. So every week we're delivering 3 social media templates, if not more, sometimes more, but we're guaranteeing 3, 2 video scripts, an email script, a blog script every single week. Every day on the with my hot sheet notes, I'm delivering them into the school classroom. So you have all my slides every single day. The amount of real content that we're delivering in a 24-hour window, it's unprecedented. Nobody's delivering more content to their users. We have 30 plus on-demand courses. And listen, I think in a world where, we were just talking about the world we live in, it's like everybody's streaming 5, 6, 7 different platforms because they're getting value from each of them. That's how BAMx is set up. It's at a ridiculously affordable price for everything that you get at a monthly cost, cancel anytime, all of that kind of stuff. By the annual, you get grandfathered in on your pricing. But the point is, in the way agents would get their training, they maybe hire one person for a couple $1,000 a month or something like that for 12 months, and they're hearing it through one point of view. This is $2.60 a day if you buy the annual. It's at for the annual, it's 1/24th of what an agent would typically pay for that kind of stuff. And there's a place for that kind of stuff. But I think in a virtual world, agents buy 2, 3, 4 different platforms that meet their needs. I think you get it all done with BAMx if you wanted to. But that's how we subscribe to 2 or 3, 4 different things so that we have optionality in our business. We can take what works for us in that season and plug it in. And BAMx is designed to have that. Plus, we have a ton of fun. We're a community that actually has your back in business. And if you want to learn about social stuff, by the way, the broke agent, he didn't buy his followers. Okay. BAM didn't buy followers like some of the other media sources in our industry. We don't have to because we have a real organic following. It's the biggest organic following in real estate. And who better to learn that kind of stuff from than the people who have actually done it?
I've followed it for, I believe, as long as you've been in existence. I don't know how many years that is. It doesn't matter, but I know it's been great. I know when I say a broken agent, broke agent media, people know what it is. Hey man, I want to thank you so much for being on today. I mean, you're a guy that's in the trenches. You're building this content by being in the trenches. When you talk about training every day and have to train all the time, you do it every day with your teams
every day
in both Connecticut and Florida. You do it all the time. I mean, this is a guy, ladies and gentlemen, that knows his shit, that's in the trenches with you, making sure everything's right. And you know what? Even if he's got to doctor a deal or whatever he's got to do, he's out there doing it. So this is a man you really want to listen to. And man, that's what's so important about you being on today. I have the greats on all the time. I had another great on today. Thank you so much for being on your second time. We'll get you on before we finish in 10 years. I don't know if I'm going to finish then or not. I don't know.
Dave, thanks for what you're doing, because I do see what you're doing. You're bringing in, I think, a lot of messages that need to be heard. You're accelerating those messages. And so I appreciate what you're doing in the industry and what you do on the business side as well. So thanks for doing this.
You're welcome, man. I got 2 things really quickly. How do I help you grow your business?
I mean, you already did. You mentioned BAMx for me. So go to school.com/BAMx. That's how we're helping agents. And, that helps grow BAM. And so I think you've done enough. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. Of course, at the end is like, you got one a couple of years ago. You got another one coming, a new color of blue, which I think you didn't get then. Hey, man, thank you so much. Stay on for a second as we finish. Next week, we have that out there. We have Myra Oliver coming on, who is a financial freedom coach. She's amazing. You're going to love everything she says. You're going to have fun. She's from down south. You're going to have really good. Thank you so much, Byron, for being on. Nelson, hit it.